Hello, this is G.E. Shaw, and this is SIME MIXLR Radio. And on today's program, we'll be bringing you the world of the paranormal with Niko Fontaine. And on this episode, we'll be talking to him about his beginnings, how he got involved in research, investigating, and things of that nature. And we'll talk about some of the stuff he's doing now. This is G.E. Shaw, and this is the world of the paranormal with Niko Fontaine. Okay, hello there. This is G.E. Shaw, and this is MIXLR 24/7. And we have in the studio today a good friend of mine and our new host of the world of the paranormal, Mr. Niko Fontaine. So how you doing, Nick?
I'm doing great, GE. Thanks for having me on the show.
So, we played a couple of your promos, and we just did the premiere show of the Ghostbusters.
Yes.
So, what do you think about... No, better yet, let's go back. How did you get into this?
So, kind of interesting story. So, earlier in my life, I had experienced a few paranormal events. Let's say, and you know, as a child, you kind of like brush them off as like just being some crazy stuff as you experienced as a kid. Later on in life, I met up with my friend Chris, who helped me start out my ghost organization. Literally, just based off of a conversation we had, we realized we had similar events happen in our life. So, you know, seeing that there was somebody else that had the same interactions, we felt comfortable talking to each other about it. Long story short, in 2009, we started a group called FRAT, which stands for Paranormal History Research and Analysis Team in Orlando, Florida. Since then, we have like 8 or 9 chapters around the U.S. now. And like I said, 10 years later, I'm still doing it. Seen a few interesting things, man. It's been a good ride.
Okay, so not to compare you with the infamous TV show that's on right now, Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
How do you guys, in retrospect, compare or contrast to the Ghost Hunters? Yeah,
that's a really good question. So, like with Ghost Hunters, the show, which I think is actually a pretty good show. There's obviously a lot of stuff that's thrown in there to make it interesting for television. I will tell you right now, on investigations, there's a lot more time spent being bored than being astonished. So, I mean, let's be real. So, a lot of the stuff that they go through, I think the biggest mentality with it too is when you go out there and investigate, and they do this as well, that you have to go out there as a skeptic. So our job is to basically disprove the claims.
Right.
And once we hit a point where we're unable to disprove it, that's when we capture true evidence. And then ourselves are even astonished as much as the clients that we're investigating with.
Okay. Now, here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm not no professional per se.
It's fair.
But I am into sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the reason I was intrigued with that and was intrigued with you when you was talking about it, because for the most part, I am always been intrigued with life, death. I'm a poet.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people think I have too much of an intrigue in death.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of my poetry is very dark. In saying that, the couple of times I've seen the Ghost Hunters, the one thing I have always wondered, they tend to at least investigate, at least what I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
big, early, old mansions or old, either restored hotels, things of that nature. And I have always been under the belief certain things you don't really want to mess with. You know, sometimes what's that saying? Let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah.
You know, and so when you see these guys bringing in all these cameras, sound recorders, what is it? EFT? I always get it wrong.
EMF detectors. EVP recorders.
Recorders. I always get it mixed up with the EMP.
Yeah, it's a lot of acronyms.
All right. And they place them all over the house. Mm-hmm. The thing that always gets to me, man, is the fact, why you want to wait until the nighttime to come in and put this stuff up? Me personally, I'm like this. It'd be the same thing if I was hunting a vampire. I ain't going down there, you know, when I know that's their time to pray. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make sure I got everything put together before I do that. Mm-hmm. So, why is it, especially if the individual or individuals or group is coming to you, mm-hmm. why come you can't go in there early enough, set up, before you do your investigation? Because for me, I think when you do it at night, you're not familiar with the place. You know, they give you a little brief historic thing about it. But you don't want, why do you want to walk in there and put stuff up in the middle of the night? I mean, that's like asking for trouble, man.
Yeah. Well, like, so a lot of stuff that they tend to skip over. So in the actual field, we do go out there and conduct a preliminary investigation. So we'll interview who we're talking to. So whoever the client is, get a grasp of what they're experiencing, where they're experiencing it, and then we'll take a preliminary walk around the facility in the hot spots that they say they have it, and we'll take some data from there. EMF readings, you know, we'll take EVPs and stuff like that, just initial stuff. And then we'll come back at night. The reason the night is chosen is because it's the least time where you're going to have false data. So, like, during the day, cars are driving around everywhere, things like that in nature. So we end up choosing the night. That being said, there's also just a historical, like, reference to, like, the witching hour. At a certain time of night, certain things tend to come. We don't know the exact reason why, but we know that the most data we've ever collected has been after dusk.
Okay, now, isn't it true, since you said the witching hour, and this, don't quote me on this, but I think I do remember reading somewhere a reference to that usually the witching hour usually occurred anywhere between 12 and like 2 or 3 in the morning?
Yes, correct. So, like, the official witching hour is around 3 o'clock. But yes, it's basically after midnight when the moon is highest in the sky. I guess this goes back to folklore. I assume it has to do with, like, you know, what's it called? The legends of, like, werewolves and stuff like that. All this late night stuff. But the exact time, I believe, is, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, 3:07 a.m. is considered to be the witching hour.
That's about right. But here's the thing, though. When you talk about the witching hour and you talk about all these different prefixes to that, where, and believe me, I am a believer in Satan because I believe in this point, and I will argue with anybody about it. I believe on this reference that if there is a such thing as good, there has to be a counterpart.
Correct.
Same thing as you believe in the Almighty.
Yeah.
He has to have a counterpart.
What is good without evil?
So, where does Satan play a part in this? Because it also tends to be referenced to around the same time frame.
Correct.
3 o'clock, 3:07.
So, that's a really good question. So, going back, kind of doing a little historical stuff, there was 2 demonologists, parapsychologists that lived around late 60s, early 70s by the name of Ed and Lorraine Warren. They are super famous for their investigations. I mean, you have, like, the Annabelle story. They investigated the doll. The movie The Conjuring is heavily based on a haunting in Harrisville, Rhode Island. They also investigated the Amityville. So
I have references to that.
Yeah, good.
But I don't want to detour from this right now
Yeah, of
because,
course.
but I will on the next time we get together.
Yeah.
Next hour, next time, next
Yeah.
week, whatever we get together, I will have that all set aside.
Yeah.
But in preparing for this, that name did come up. There's a couple that came up.
Yeah.
There were a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And they were referring to Annabelle. They also referred to a set of dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Not just Annabelle, but a set of dolls back in the early Victorian days
Mm-hmm.
that were responsible for the so-called witching hour. That
Mm-hmm.
they were like the demon dolls, the dolls that were set aside for some unknown reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that anybody that possessed that doll
Correct.
would be obsessed or things would just go badly wrong. And
Right.
from that point on, they got passed on from century to century.
Yes.
Now, I read part of it. I didn't get a chance to read it all. So how much of that is true and how much of that is this fiction?
So it's interesting. So the thing is, when we deal with their particular career in this stuff, first of all, Ed Warren is at the time the only non-ordained demonologist that was recognized by the Catholic Church, because he provided the most information and the most footage and stuff to get many exorcisms to be done.
Plus, he was a skeptic.
Plus, he was a skeptic. That was the biggest thing too. He never went in there and be like, everything's going on. Him and his wife would go and try to literally disprove everything. That's the basis of what I do in my ghost hunt. I want to find the most logical explanation for it. Until I exercise everything, I'm going to be a skeptic. Once I discover there's nothing left, then at that point, I start taking that data more seriously.
So basically,
Yeah.
we're actually talking basically Occam's razor.
Yeah.
If you understand what
Yeah.
if you rule out everything else out, what's real and what's there has to be the truth.
Yeah, I mean the biggest misconception of everything is you have to assume, like when going into the field of ghost hunting, you have to assume that you don't know squat, that the world that you know don't know a complete world, because you got to think about it. Hearing a voice on a recording and not hearing it in real life is against the physics of sound. Like, why didn't my eardrum vibrate? So everything that you're experiencing is not the norm, hence the paranormal term. It's something that you're not prepared, mentally to process. Once you accept that you know nothing about the complete world, then you start to accept some of this data. It's interesting. I went on my first hunt. This was before we even built the thing. Actually, it was a little fun thing to do. I was at a plantation in Florida, a slave plantation in Florida. And we went to one of those little, like it was like it's not like a barn house, but like where they used to house the slaves.
Yeah.
Got the most readings out of that place, audios, crying, yelling, stuff like that from there. From that point on, hooked. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I was in this room, pitch black, nothing going on. I didn't hear nothing. It sounded like I was in an auditorium. That's how much audio I caught.
Interesting.
So it's interesting. And going back to your previous question, you asked, where does the devil fall into this? So we have class systems where we classify everything. And demonics and angelics fall in a classification. I believe that's a class 5 paranormal entity.
Okay, so when you say class 5...
Yes. So the classification system, it goes from, we have what's called a residual ghost. That's a class 1. So a residual ghost, first of all, the prerequisite for a ghost is it has to be the spirit of something that was once living.
Right.
A human or a dog or an animal, something of that nature. That's called a residual ghost.
Okay.
Second one is called an interactive ghost. This one gets a little tricky. So an interactive ghost is a ghost... it's interactive ghost or artificial ghost. It's a ghost that's created by the energy of beings.
Okay.
Great example, a seance. you create the energy necessary to manifest the spirit. That doesn't mean that the spirit is actually a ghost of a human. You could be bringing stuff in.
I got a question about
Ask
that
away,
too.
Please.
But we're going to keep on first.
Fair enough. So a class 3 is a poltergeist. So a poltergeist is an interesting thing. I called them mind-altering ghosts. So a poltergeist requires a lot of electromagnetic energy to manifest itself. When you're exposed to that much energy yourself, you start to kind of trip out. So you start experiencing and like hallucinating in certain ways, in ways, shapes, or forms. And a lot of the stuff that people experience with a poltergeist has a lot to do with your mind playing tricks on you because of the exposure of that electromagnetic frequency.
Okay, so so it's true, from what I understand about poltergeists, that they need or depend on real life energy.
Correct. So this is true of all things from categories 3 and below. They require some sort of energy to manifest because they don't create their own. So you could be in a room, like let's say you're in a hunt, you could feel drained. They're stealing your ambient energy. Your batteries could die. Phones could all die. That's why we try to limit the amount of electronics we bring into there. Because they're already going to start to drain our cameras. They're going to start to drain our...
You guys are bringing in cameras.
Correct. Exactly. So this is why a lot of good footage is never caught. Because for it to manifest to that extent, it will literally try to drain everything. To the point where it drains your energy. Or if you hit like a cold spot in the room, it's draining the ambient energy of the room, so all the heat's disappearing and you get a cold spot. So it's weird. It all kind of works together.
So, not to question you about that, but here's the thing. And basically, you just said it, but I just want to rephrase that. So, let's say that you go into a known place that's known to be haunted.
Correct.
Now, based on what you just said, and based on what I know, when you start bringing equipment of that nature into a hotspot,
correct,
aren't you kind of asking or triggering and saying, "Hey,
it's true. So
come to get us."
Yeah, so it's true. So there is a lot, and again, that's kind of the idea. We want to get them out. If they're really there, this should be created. So we actually bring in other things aside from cameras and voice recorders and things of that nature. We bring certain things that we call tokens, things that kind of like feed them, like, hey, move this ball, hey, push this bell, do this and that. We use a thing called a laser grid, which will create like a little like multi-dot matrix laser on the wall.
I've seen that with
to see if the entity will manipulate the lights. It's interesting. So we do bring a lot of things. We have a thing called a spirit box. And it's essentially a box that continually channels through FM signals. And essentially as it's continually channeling, the spirit is actually able to try to form words through the interference. It's interesting because it's continually randomly going, and then the way we know we captured something is when you get a phrase or a short sentence out of it, because that should be impossible.
Keeping with that statement, since we were just talking about that today, Ghostbusters. Fact or fiction? Is there really a ghost trap?
So no. So the reason the reason I chose Ghostbusters as one of my first things to talk about is because as silly and as outlandish as the movie is,
that's pretty good.
There's a lot of science that they talk about. So some data that we have collected and how like our EMF detector works is we know through experience that paranormal entities emit a negative electromagnetic field. So Ghostbusters took that kind of a step further, and they utilized that information And think about magnets, opposites attract.
Right.
So all their equipment is positively charged protons. The proton pack. The ghost trap has a proton grid that comes out with like a laser containment, blah, blah, blah. This is all science that doesn't exist, but the science behind it is sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as far as proton beams and things of that nature, I agree with you. I mean,
if
it's
there's
somebody,
sound science.
Yeah, but if somebody's out there walking around with one of those,
you're going to be arrested. Like immediately.
Well, not only that, the idea of releasing one of those in a community, you're not only going to blow yourself up.
Correct.
You're going to create like a miniature nuclear warhead?
Yeah, so basically, the proton pack in the film is nuclear powered.
All right, let me ask you this.
For that type of energy. Mm-hmm.
In the near future.
Yes.
Because I've always been under the perception of this. And until somebody actually can really prove me wrong, I believe in that perception. Mm-hmm. If you can think it, you can create it on fiction or not.
Yeah.
On a big screen in a TV production. I have always been under this belief. Somewhere, somehow, there is a miniature format model of something that comes close to it.
Correct.
So my question is, in the near future, not too near future, can you see that actually being?
I mean, if anything, they've taken inspiration from it. Because even though, again, silly film, the gadgets have pretty sound technology. Just because the technology didn't exist then, doesn't mean we're not approaching that technology soon. So I can see someone, trying to create a similar thing. That being said, in the movie they have a lot of ghost encounters. That's okay. In that 2-hour bracket, they see a lot of ghosts.
Yeah.
It's not like that in real life. You're more than likely going to hit the spot where the sound you are hearing is the floorboards creaking in the attic. It's
okay.
Yeah.
That might be true, but the ghost, the head ghost in the original Dagon.
Gozer.
Gozer.
Mm-hmm.
Out of curiosity,
that goes up our classification
and reference that. Mm-hmm. It might have been made for the movies, comedy, relief, whatever. But there's always been a mention of Gozer. Mm-hmm. Even as far back as the early 1300s or even below that, further that, back than that.
Yeah.
So, what we did was we took stuff from early Victorian ages and we brought it forward to that time period.
Correct.
So, I have always wondered what happens if there's actually some evil demon or demonology out there roaming around and watching all this crap.
Yeah.
And one day decides okay, you know what? Y'all had enough fun.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Surprise.
A surprise.
Yeah.
And we're not prepared for that.
No, and exactly. And the thing is, too, is there's, again, in the film, there is a run-up of time. They don't really give you the accurate time frame.
No.
But there's a run-up of time as these things start getting more and more, pertinent. So, like, the manifestation they witnessed in the library, for example, in the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
That would take so much energy to manifest a full torso apparition. So much energy. Dude, the lights in that library should have been going off. Like, that's how much energy it would take. But that being said, I mean, in the film, they're approaching that like it's like an end of day scenario. And then you get into the biblical. You think about that.
Yeah,
Dead rise from the grave. I mean, that's a thing.
Some of the stuff from the early...
And there's actually a scene in Ghostbusters where Winston is driving with Ray, and he referenced it. He's like, all this stuff going down.
In a
day.
He's
like, don't you think... I mean, this is the end of days. I mean,
think about it.
Skies turn black as sackcloth.
If you read any of the stuff from Revelations,
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff
Correct.
that's reference to Revelation.
Correct. That scenario is very possible.
The scenario is possible, Now, I don't know if we're going to be seeing Stay Puft, what is it?
Stay Puft Marshmallow?
Marshmallow Man as demon
as
that's
the ender
coming in the days destroy the world type of thing now. Yeah. I mean.
But a great beast could arise.
Yeah. Somehow I just don't see Stay Puft Marshmallow Man
Definitely
being
Marshmallow Man.
You know, I'd be like, hey, anybody got some matches?
Yeah, exactly. Just light this dude up.
But that's it for this segment. I want to come back and just finish the segment off with a couple of things. Your experience, your history, your education, and what we're going to look forward to in this season coming up.
Yeah.
And one thing I do want to talk about, 'cause I'm a Supernatural fan.
Yep.
There's some things in there, true or false, I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
This is G.E. Shaw, and this is MIXLR Radio 24/7 with Niko Fontaine.
Are you an independent musician? How would you like to have your songs played on hundreds of radio stations just like the one you're listening to right now? Join MusicSubmit.com and we'll promote your music to radio stations and blogs in your genre. It's free to set up your account, and we guarantee your music will be considered for airplay by radio stations worldwide. Why not sign up today? It's free. MusicSubmit.com. Radio promotion for indie musicians.
This episode of Ghosts Etc. is brought to you in part by SIME MIXLR Radio, 24/7 streaming on Spreaker.com. Join host and friend G.E. Shaw as he talks about social issues, current events, and delivers some of the best music from local unsigned talents. Once again, check out SIME MIXLR Radio on Spreaker.
Well, this is G.E. Shaw, MIXLR Radio 24/7. And guess what? I'm back. And so is Mr. Niko Fontaine. So, Nick, as we talked about earlier, there's a couple of things I want to get from you as a backdrop to one of the reasons we picked you up on our show, number one. Number two, why I think you are a good individual and a host, and I'm not going to say product, sound like some kind of package.
Yeah.
But
I'm the whole package.
But where I think this show is going to go in the near future. Number one, you said you had at least 10 years experience. Now, is this 10 years validated? I mean, like in the field type experience, or is this education too?
So there's a combination. So like obviously when we initially started, we were just kind of a bunch of kids that bought some stuff on Amazon, some tools on Amazon, and went out there to try to do stuff. But then as we're coming across things and things that we didn't fully understand, we all kind of took it upon ourselves to study some stuff. So I went ahead and studied a few things in parapsychology, studied a few things in metaphysics, and then of course a little bit of demonology. I personally like to dabble in anything demonic. I leave that for the professionals. But anything between a class 3 and below, I totally want to check out. So like, again, that being residual ghosts, artificial ghosts, or the poltergeist.
So you have never, you and your friends, as of right now, have never ventured above a 3 classification.
Didn't say that. We've witnessed it. But you
never actually went seeking it.
No, we didn't. I mean, we've gone to certain investigations and had come to the realization that we were dealing with something outside of our pay grade. And legitimately contact someone of better experience in that field.
Okay.
Because it's really sticky territory, man. Yeah.
So
it's dangerous.
I think you might have said it, but I'm want to go over this one more time.
Yeah.
I'm assuming class 5, which is the highest you can go, is dealing with someone you really don't want to meet.
So yeah, class 4s and class 5s deal with like angelics, demonics,
people
stuff
you really
like that.
don't want to deal with.
And the way the scale really works, which is kind of funny, is the lower the number on the scale, the more likely you are to experience it. The higher the number on the scale, the least likely you are to see them.
Okay, so...
And then, of course, the danger level goes up as well, so...
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm walking down the aisle and I see some glowing reddish eyes, I might want to go the opposite direction.
Go in a different alley,
I don't think I really want to investigate that.
Exactly.
But in saying that, Amityville Horror,
yes.
real.
Oh,
fact
that's
or
so.
fiction?
Yeah, so that story is based on an actual event. That's documented, and again, it goes back to Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Right.
They investigated that as
that.
well. So that story, though, dramatized a lot for film.
Yeah.
If you read the book about it, it's really in depth and more grounded.
Okay. I'm gonna throw a curveball at you.
Shoot it.
I know this is gonna be way out in left field. Manson.
Charles Manson?
Yeah.
I mean, he is just a crazy individual. But are you asking? Do I think was he possessed or like?
Was he possessed or was he somebody that really dabbled in the higher levels?
In like a cult, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Again, that's speculation. There's no documents of it. No one has investigated it. He was able to wrangle up a huge following, and my issue with that is I feel like he was just able to find the people that were kind of weak-willed and looking for an answer, and he provided. I think he's a very smart man. But
and some
of course,
people would deny that. Some
Yeah.
people should have fight you over that one.
yeah, I'm saying that you got to think about it, though. He was intelligent enough to manipulate a band of human beings.
Well, see, here's the thing. I read Helter Skelter.
Yeah.
Okay. I have my thoughts on it too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that for a future time.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I agree with you in one perspective, and I have always said that people look at me like, you crazy, you idiot."
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, even as psychotic as he is, that is,
Mm-hmm.
he was intellectual.
Yeah.
Very smart.
He was probably well spoken. He was probably, very quick witted, stuff like that. So like he was able to create a religion
Yeah.
and a following
But see, here's
with
the thing.
nothing to back it up.
I don't know whether or not you heard this or not, but one of the things that was mentioned in Manson in Helter Skelter, the book, I call it his autobiography,
Yeah.
was the fact that his whole perception, and this is where the intellect comes in, excuse me, was the fact that he believed that the perspective of the domineering race was not Caucasian.
Mm-hmm.
He felt it was minorities, people dark skinned, African Americans, people of that nature. Not that I'm trying to go out there on this racist type, vengeance here, but his whole philosophy was based on one thing. If I can figure out a way to remove the majority, which when we look at the majority as being the dominant race, it would be the Caucasian, Anglo-Saxon, from the face of this earth, then I would have complete power and control because I should be able to become their strong leader in their leadership. And being that the minority were a strong, domineering race, have control with this.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes even deeper than that because he talked about demonology in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only reason I brought that question up to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely. I mean, he may have been messing around and speaking to the other side. I mean, that's, crack out a Ouija board, you open a gate. He may have been seeking guidance from, the wrong side.
You had to bring it to Ouija board.
I had to bring it to Ouija board, man. Those are
Now, that's my...
next
See,
stop.
I was going to use that for next week, but and you had to bring it
I'll
up.
bring it up, Ouija.
So, I'm only going to ask you this one question about the Ouija board.
Yeah.
I don't mess with it myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something about having 4 or 5 individuals together and asking the board to walk across the board, giving you names and things of that nature. Whether or not it's fake or not, or whether or not somebody's controlling the board or not. Something like that tends to kind of rub me the wrong way.
Yeah.
Go back to the same philosophy. If you should let laying dollars lie.
Yeah.
Why do I want to even entertain that?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, people assume that when you use a Ouija board, that you're speaking to ghosts, and that's not what it's designed. Its initial design was for. Now, that being said, you can buy a Parker Brothers Ouija board in the store. It's not the same thing. But if you can go, you can go to a thrift shop and like an antique store and actually get an actual wooden carved Ouija board.
Now, that's the first time I heard that one. So, okay, let me get this straight. Antique Ouija boards, Parker Brothers Ouija boards, they're not the same. But now,
no, there is a thing. So it depends. So like, if you already have a demonic in your home or in the place you're doing it, as weak or as strong as it may be, you're basically providing it a token. You're giving it something to communicate with. The thing is with classic Ouija boards, like original, like, witchcraft seance type Ouija boards, they're made out of a special kind of wood. They're blessed in a certain way to kind of create this like vortex opening for the thing. The biggest issue, and where people usually face this kind of stuff, is there's certain steps to initiate and end the Ouija conversation.
Yeah, that's the question.
If you don't do these steps and say the certain whatever, you could leave a gate open.
So you do believe in that aspect of it?
I've seen it. I've seen a Ouija board. I've never participated in that because because demonics can latch on to an individual.
Yeah.
And I might be more susceptible than most to that.
Yeah, we get to that in just 1 minute. So what you're saying, I'm pretty familiar with what you're saying. Something about the fact that you have to, asking hello, goodbye, whatever. Correct. But I guess to me the most important aspect would be the ending of it, where you have to. Before you leave,
people will freak out and leave.
Yeah,
but you have to end
it by saying goodbye.
Everyone has to be here and be like, circle around for every person in the room. So you say something and actually say goodbye. Yeah, or else you leave the gateway open.
So just not saying goodbye really does leave a gateway open.
Correct. And that being said, though, if the demonic was already there, you didn't do anything else but give it a voice. And you basically can give it strength, too. Because think about this. These 4 people in the room now, there's energy to draw from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that energy of whether it be that, a seance, or whatever, that energy it's drawing from now is now giving it strength.
Okay. The Parker Brother Ouija board. Yeah. Let me ask you this question. This might not be as strong as a classic Ouija board. Yeah. But if you're using a Ouija board for the wrong purpose and for the wrong reasons, couldn't that be enough to institute or at least bring forward a powerful force that can actually, as wicked may be, take over that board and take over whoever's there?
Yeah, there's the possibility. So, like, people out there can research a way to turn that toy Ouija board into an actual Ouija with the proper, incantations. Exactly. So, you can literally write the letters on a piece of paper, and if you put the incantation on it, it becomes a thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like, again, not something I like to mess with. Again, I'm more susceptible to stuff. And we'll explain that later. I'm sure you'll prompt me that question.
Believe me.
They're coming up.
We're going into the world of the paranormal.
The world of the paranormal.
I got the right guy. One more question, and that would probably be the end of this.
Okay.
You're ordained minister.
Yes.
And talking to you previously outside the show, you have said that as an ordained minister, when you go on some of these investigations, they tend to love to talk to you.
They gravitate to me. And this is literally, so going into that, I am not like an online ordained minister. I've actually, I was raised Catholic and have gone through all the things that would qualify me. Baptized, confirmations, all those things. So yes, once I went through that, I noticed a spike in interaction. So, and not necessarily in the ghost department, but I've been able to sense things and feel things and be almost like targeted with other things. That's why I can identify a demonic like that, and then
Wouldn't it be kind of creepy?
What it is?
I mean,
it is. So that's a really good question. So
I mean, you go into some of these places that my hairs would probably be jumping up on my skin.
Yeah, dude. So stuff I've seen is pretty intense. Nothing like crazy, like demons coming out of the wall, none of that crazy stuff like that. But things happening in the room that are unexplained.
Okay.
Chair flying at me, unexplained. There's no reason the chair should fly at me.
Now, according to ghost hunters, a chair could move because the building is old.
Correct, but never goes airborne.
Oh,
there's a difference there. So
unless
it's sliding or it kind of like a ball rolling on the table. It's a different story.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. I have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
They can explain that away, ball rolling and all that.
Correct.
But how can you explain a chair moving across the floor on a carpet?
Correct.
That's pretty. I'm not talking about one of those surface carpets, one of those deep,
like a deep, fluffy carpet, like a shag rug or something.
You can explain a lot of things away. All right. It's kind of hard for me to believe that you can explain away something like that, especially if the surface itself is pretty solid, has not been disturbed.
Right. And that's a big thing. I mean, with how far it moved. Like you said, you took into consideration. This is what we do in the field. We take into consideration physics. Like that should not, even if the room is swaying.
Yeah.
The chair shouldn't move. If a door opens due to a draft, it shouldn't close again because the draft is one direction.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to take these into consideration. So using common sense, we try to explain the non-common sensible. Like it's weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's my last question.
Yeah, I swear.
How do I want to propose this question? Okay. Let's go back to the witching hour, or the so-called gap within the witching hour.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever? And the only reason I'm asking that because I always think I'm experiencing something that's not really there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know, especially when you're coming from a skeptic like me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there's been times, I can be sitting here watching TV, and I usually have all my house lights off anyway, and just out of the corner of my peripheral. I mean, it's not a person per se, but it's like you can see this little white. And I'm not talking. I know you're gonna say it could be some dust, sparkling, little dust,
I know
little lint,
and I can explain it to you.
But if it's lint, that's some pretty strong lint.
Yeah.
Floating past here. And then when I look, it's not there.
Correct. So this kind of goes into this again. I'm not a medical professional, but through studies done independent studies done by parapsychologists, they have come to the conclusion that the human body, we are designed with fail safes, and I'll kind of explain that. So, if your body or heart cannot take a certain thing, your eyes and your ears will omit it. So like instead of like how can I explain this? So the thing you saw in the corner of your eye, you probably did see, and then your body's like, to keep the body from going into shock, we're gonna say it's not there. And your body has the ability to essentially choose what it wants to see and what it wants to hear. The reason this has been semi-proved is they went through hypnosis and the person had those things taken off. Like they removed the barriers.
Right.
And were put in a similar scenario again and they saw or witnessed it. Type of thing. So it's an interesting thing. Our body's natural defense system is to protect ourselves. If you're stranded on an island, you all of a sudden will learn how to hunt. You'll learn how to, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. It becomes a thing. It's your body adapts to the scenario.
Yeah, but I can also go. Mm-hmm. I can also go with the so-called natural survivor Darwinism type you know, when you are backed up in a corner or you have no choice, you become...
Well, you get the fight or flight response. The fight or flight response is very similar
You
to
become that, you know.
So you can basically... I could even chalk it up to the fact that, do you want to see it? That's the thing. It's like, do you want... Like, you're sitting here, like you said, all your lights are off, and you're alone in the room.
And I see... But this is not
you
the first time.
see something.
I see stuff like that all the time.
And that's fine. You see something. It's really internally, do I want to see what I just saw?
Okay.
And your body kind of makes that decision.
I have one other question. I know I said I didn't want to, but this is my last question.
Shoot, whatever.
Do you believe in witches?
Yes, that is a class 6.
So you... Wait.
We go up to class 7.
Hold on.
Yeah, there's up to class 7s. So there are witches, warlocks. Those fall under that category.
No, I got that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're rating witches and warlocks
because remember,
above Satan.
Correct, because they're less witnessed. In other words, like there's witches.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Okay, got
you know what I mean? Like, there's, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The scale has nothing to do. I mean, that being said, you got to think about it. Witches, and warlocks can utilize demonics.
Right.
If you can control the demonic, it puts you above it.
Okay, we know Satan is the most powerful entity out there.
Correct,
but
he is less seen.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay.
You get what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. No, they're not higher up in the scale. So the scale has nothing to do with intensity. It's more of a,
Okay, so here's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Next program, I want to talk a little bit more about a couple of shows.
Hmm?
One's called Charm, which I do love.
It's a good show.
And I do watch it.
It's a good show.
Okay, so I'm going to let you know that.
Fair enough.
And the other thing is, I can't, The Grudge.
The movie The Grudge, yeah.
I want to talk about both of those and get in some detail about that. And what else we can think about.
Yeah.
Okay?
I got it.
All right.
Sounds good to me.
This is G.E. Shaw, and this is SIME MIXLR Radio 24/7 with Niko Fontaine, the newest host on the newest network radio. We're coming for you, folks. We really are. Have a good evening. And this is G.E. Shaw. Just letting you know, we'll be back every week with the world of the paranormal with Niko Fontaine. Until then, I will see you next week. Jeremy Blake, Heaven and Hell.